Hi, this is Andy from GPS Training. In this video we're having a look at two new products that we've just got into stock, comparing them side by side just to give you a good insight to some of the differences between these two products. So what we're looking at today is on the left hand side here I have the Garmin inReach Messenger two-way satellite communicator, and on the right hand side I have the Zoleo ZL1000 satellite communicator. First thing to look at is what is a satellite communicator? What are these sort of devices designed for? So really what they are designed for is someone who's going off the beaten track, off grid, where you're potentially not going to have any Wi-Fi or mobile phone connection, mobile data, and you want a device that is going to allow you to keep in touch with friends and family, whether by quick shortcut messages as a check-in message, a proper sort of standard text message to let people know how you're doing. Also could be you want family members or friends to be able to track you across a map to see your movements. Finally, hopefully it will not happen, but if you were to have an accident or need to summons help, we have SOS buttons on both of the units that will send for help, send your location, and then you will get messages back advising you that help's on its way. For instance, mountain rescue if you're in the hills in the United Kingdom, that sort of service coming to help you. The way these devices work, they're using both of them the Iridium satellite system. So if you've got no mobile data, mobile connection, the messages are transferred two-way, backwards and forwards, to and from the device using the Iridium system. The Iridium satellite system does have 100% coverage of the Earth's surface, as long as you've got a view of the sky, whether it be land or sea. There are some embargoes on some countries that don't permit the use of this type of device. It's only a small number. They are listed on our frequently asked questions on our website page for both the products. So both of these products can be found on the GPS Training website, gpstraining.co.uk. Underneath the GPS store, you will see the heading two-way satellite communicators, and we've got both devices there. Lots of specs and videos on the devices, and also the frequently asked questions. Both of the devices do work with an app, so you do pair it with a phone, which help you get the best out of the devices. Nice thing is the phone, of course, does not need mobile data connection. You're basically using it as a Bluetooth keypad really with the device. There's a couple of new features that we've got in these new devices that do actually allow the messages to go through seamlessly using mobile data if you do have mobile data rather than the satellites. The beauty of that is it means any messages you get sent or send if you have got mobile data at the time, but you're using the Zoleo or the Garmin Messenger app that you pair with the device, they'll be sent using your normal mobile data, so you won't get any subscription charges on your satellite messages. So basically your satellite messages will stay with the amount that you've got left. So that's a nice feature, that it seamlessly does work between the two types of messages, and we will talk a little bit about that when I go through sending messages. But the first thing we really want to talk about is just get the sizes, dimensions, weight, that sort of thing, so you've got an idea what they're like to carry first, and then we'll talk about sort of the battery life and the messaging apps and how we send the messages, and then finally we'll go through a price comparison of the subscriptions just to give you an idea, comparing as like to like as much as we can. We won't cover every single subscription option. They are available on our frequently asked questions, and also the price of the units. So the first thing you'll notice is the Garmin unit on the left is a little bit smaller than the Zoleo, so I'll just go through the size and weight first. So the Garmin unit on the left hand side here is 7.8 centimeters by 6.4 centimeters by 2.3 centimeters wide. The Zoleo slightly bigger at 9.1 centimeters, 6.6 centimeters and 2.7 centimeters on the depth. The actual weight of the units, the Garmin unit comes in at 113.9 grams, very lightweight. The Zoleo is a little bit heavier at 150 grams, but still no weight to carry. Just to show you them again side by side, turn them over there, just gives you a good idea of what they look like side by side. Both of the units have got IP ingress protection ratings that make them absolutely fine to be used out in all weathers. The Garmin has an IPX7 rating and the Zoleo just slightly higher at IP 68, but both absolutely fine to be rained on. The units themselves have a weather rating for temperature. -20 is the minimum, -20°C is the minimum operating temperature, and maximum is 55°C on the Zoleo and 60°C on the Garmin. For charging the unit, you do need to make sure it's above freezing. Charging temperatures are between 0°C and 45°C. So we're just going to have a look at some of the physical attributes of the units first. So the Garmin one's got a sort of rubbery type texture to the unit. It's actually got, if you look on the bottom of the unit here for carrying, there's a lanyard slot where we do stock a couple of lanyards for carrying the device. So we have a retractable lanyard and a quick release Garmin lanyard available on accessories. So that's the only accessory we have for carrying the device. It's got an LCD screen, which you don't have on the Zoleo. The LCD screen does allow a few more standalone features, as in if someone was to message you, you will see those messages on the screen. You can access the shortcut messages, which we'll cover in a little bit more detail when I go through messages, using the buttons on the bottom of the screen and the LCD screen. Also, that screen does allow you to see things like the date, the time, your battery life. It's got a feature we don't have on the Zoleo. It's the only navigational feature really that it has, other than people tracking you, where you leave a track point. Say every 10 minutes it'll leave a track point of where you've walked. On the device you can say, take me back to the start, and you'll just get a small black and white arrow on the screen pointing you in the direction as you move. You need to be moving for that to turn, and the distance to the next point that you left behind you when you recorded every 10 minutes, and the distance back to the start. So it is a bit basic, but it is giving you that extra navigational feature. You can't send any routes to the unit to navigate with. Bear in mind, it is just a small LCD screen. You can actually get weather alerts on the unit, where on the LCD screen, rather than necessarily looking on your phone, you can view those weather alerts as well. So it does have the LCD screen. On the side of the unit, we've got the SOS button, which is hidden behind a little flap to stop you accidentally pressing it. And also on the other side, we've got a little flap where you plug in the USB-C cable. This one comes with for charging, and then you would just use your standard plug that you would use for like a phone with a USB connection, or if you were using a power bank connection to USB-C to charge the device. So that is just a basic look at the device. One thing to go with the charging, this is the only device we've got out of the two where it actually does something called reverse boost charge. So if you are using your mobile phone, which you do get the best out of the device if it's paired with your phone, and you found your phone had no battery and you were wanting to use the keypad of your phone to type a message and then send via the satellites, it does allow you to put in a USB-C cable, as long as it's USB-C to whatever your phone is. So you need to make sure you get the right cable for your phone. From a USB-C output to whatever your phone takes, it'll allow you to give your phone just a little boost to allow you to turn the phone on and use the keypad to type a message. So I'm just going to take a look at the Zoleo now, which we know is the slightly bigger unit. So on the Zoleo, we have an SOS button hidden behind a cap as well to stop you accidentally pressing it. USB connections, a micro cable you get with this one. This one you can't use the charger device, but for charging the Zoleo you would just use a standard USB plug to micro, and you do get a cable in the box with the unit. So I'm just going to flip that back in. And SOS button we've mentioned doesn't have the LCD screen, but you do have LED lights that will tell you what's happening. You get a little guide in with the unit that explains what the lights mean when a message is coming through. Viewing the messages, you would need the phone app, the Zoleo app on your phone, to be paired with the device. I should say, if you are sending an SOS message, you don't, of course, that doesn't need to be paired with the phone at all. The check-in messages on this device, you have a little tick button on the top, so again you don't need to use the phone to send a check-in message. The phone is really for typing in those longer messages where you want to use the keypad. But in the case of the Zoleo, if you wanted to read a message, you would need the phone paired. Doesn't need mobile data, it would still get the messages through via satellite, whereas the Garmin, you do have the small screen, even though I would still recommend you have the app, the Garmin new Messenger app, paired with the device. So also on the Zoleo, what we've got is a lanyard, I say a lanyard attachment, it's not a lanyard attachment, it's a little bit of webbing that allows you to put a carabiner clip in that comes with the device. So you get a carabiner clip in the box. Doesn't actually have a lanyard attachment as far as I can see, but what we do sell as an accessory is this box here that has the Zoleo Cradle Kit, which comes with various mounts. A couple of these mounts will allow you to attach to webbing, thread some webbing through, or on a belt with a cradle that attaches to the unit. And unlike the Garmin, we do actually have a car mount for this device, so we do a full kit that has the same 3 bits in the standard Cradle Kit, but it has an additional car mount as well, and that comes with a car charger and additional cable for the device. We've got a few more accessories for carrying the Zoleo. So that's just a basic sort of look at the unit. The Zoleo's got a sort of harder feel to the unit, but it is still a tough water resistant unit. On the bottom of the unit gives you some information about sending the SOS and cancelling it. And actually the Garmin has the same on the bottom of the unit. It has some information about how you send the SOS, which is basically just holding the SOS button in. It's just reminding you that you can cancel the SOS button if you need to. So that is just the physical attributes first. I'm now going to go on to a little bit more information on the messaging and the tracking, and then we'll talk about the battery life. So the messaging and tracking now, I'll start with the Garmin. So with the Garmin device, we mentioned standalone, of course, we've got the SOS button if you needed to summons help, 365 days a year, 24/7 monitoring. You then will get messages back on the screen explaining what's happening, and that's helps on its way. If you've got it paired with your mobile phone and the Garmin's new Messenger app, you will actually get the messages come through on the phone as well, and you can use the keypad on the phone if you find that easier to type the messages. Because we have got the screen and these buttons on the bottom, you are able to access shortcut messages rather than using the phone. Scroll through to a shortcut message that you preset on the software when you set up the device and use the OK button to send it. We can also initiate the tracking rather than from the app. We can actually do it directly from the unit by going through menus on the LCD screen to start the tracking. So friends and family can then track you. You could actually type a message using the screen, but it would be, I could imagine, a little bit tedious, because what I know, we haven't started using the device yet, but I know from looking at all the information, you would be basically using left and right arrows to move over letters on the screen and pressing OK to select a letter. That would be obviously a lot quicker typing a long message using the app on the phone when it's paired with the device. Now, when you send the messages, so if you are sending friend and family messages, whether it be directly from the unit or using the app that you have on your phone, the way the device works, if you haven't got mobile data connection, it'll send it via the Iridium satellite network. But what's nice, if you have actually got mobile data on your phone, you might not have realised the message will go that way, so the message then doesn't come off your allowances that you've paid for. Regarding the tracking with this unit, the way the Garmin works, when you first set up your inReach account, you have something called Map Share, which is basically a website address that is assigned to yourself. You can give it a unique name and it can be passworded, and any family members you give that to or friends, whenever they click on that link or you send them a reminder that you've started a trip and you want them to follow you on something called Map Share to remind them to click on the link, they will be able to see your movements. So if you've got the unit, say, set for every 10 minutes tracking, they'd see a breadcrumb trail of you moving every 10 minutes. So that's how the tracking would work. I'm sure it's a SOS button. Obviously press the SOS button, it alerts the monitoring station, and then you get messages back regarding help on its way. SOS can be cancelled if need be. The fact we like this changeover now that we have on the Garmin, the Zoleo, when we talk about it, has the same feature that if you say turn the Garmin off, so you haven't got it turned on anymore, but you've given someone the information, that's how they can get in contact with you when you're on a trip. But in the evening you might be in some accommodation where you now have mobile data or Wi-Fi. You won't lose those messages. You'll actually get them come through on the Messenger app on your phone just using mobile data, the same as you then were to send a message back. It'll just use your mobile data but send it as if it's coming from your Garmin. And if your Garmin's on and paired and got a view of the sky with satellites and you haven't got mobile data again, it then sends the message using the Iridium satellite network. So that's a bit about the messages on the Garmin. Just going to talk about the Zoleo now. So we also have a Zoleo app. So with the Zoleo app, you then pair it with your device, and that's how you type your text messages and send them. And in the same way, it will send them using mobile data if you actually have mobile data, so that the messages don't come off your allowance. If you haven't got mobile data, it then sends them using the Iridium satellite network. SOS button again, the one to summons help. You do get lights flashing to show the messages went through, but to see messages come back, you would need to have your phone on and paired. Remember, your phone doesn't need mobile data, it will get those messages through using the satellites. Standalone, you can set up a check-in message. You can set up to, I think it's 5 people maximum of who gets the message, and you can press the check-in button and they get that check-in message. Bear in mind that check-in message, if it is being sent by satellites, it will actually come off your subscription number of messages, whereas on the Garmin, the simple preset messages don't actually come off your subscription. They're actually included, but it is quick and simple. You're not having to, I suppose, scroll through on a screen and find the messages. You are simply pressing, it's one message that you've done as a check-in and decided who it's going to go to in advance, and you're just pressing that button to send it. So that's how we do the messages. You have the app. One thing with the Zoleo, when you do set it up, you are giving you're given a designated mobile phone number. So if you give family and friends that number, they can just message you using that number, and then it'll come through either using satellites or the app using mobile data. Whereas on the Garmin, your friends and family will need the Messenger app if they're going to send you messages. It's free to use and dead simple to use and doesn't cost anything on the Garmin, but friends and family, you will need to share that Messenger app with them. Whereas the Zoleo, you could potentially just give your friends and family, if they're not wanting to track you, just the number that you're assigned to send you messages through on. If friends and family do want to track you and it's one of these 5 people that you set up, they will need the Zoleo app, but of course there's no cost for them to put that app on their smart device. So that hopefully just gives you a bit of information about the messaging and tracking. The intervals we're talking about can be changed to increase battery life, but when we tend to compare things, we compare the Garmin using the 10-minute tracking and the Zoleo using their minimum 12-minute tracking, just to give you an idea when comparing. So we're going to talk about battery life now. So if I start with the Garmin first, the Garmin unit itself, if you're tracking every 10 minutes, and as long as you've got a good view of the sky when you're out and about, so you're not in areas where there's lots of tree coverage, potentially 10-minute tracking, 28 days if you're just using it for tracking and not using other functions. That can be reduced to 14 days if you've got a lot of tree coverage for the 10-minute tracking, but you could change your tracking to every 30 minutes, and that increases the battery to a whopping 46 days with full coverage of the sky, decent coverage of the sky, and down to 23 days with moderate coverage. The patch aerials on the top, so it always works better if it's facing upwards, especially when sending a message. Now the Zoleo battery, they only give one figure. We'll start doing more testing and report back on how we're getting on with batteries on both of the units. Zoleo quoted in actually hours rather than days, and a 12-minute checking for messages every 12 minutes, you're going to get 200 hours plus, which is about 8 days. So it is less battery life, but still a good amount. And the fact that neither of the units got a massive battery in it, even though they've got that great life, what we mean in a positive with that is they're really quick to charge. It doesn't take the unit an awful long time to charge. You'll find typically we've charged the units in a couple of hours, even less depending on what charger and output you're using. So you're not having to leave it overcharge overnight. It's not as big a battery as your phone. And it's always worth just carrying an extra power bank as backup for these units. So that's just a little bit about the battery life on the units. We're now going to move on to the charges of the units, how much they cost to buy, and the subscription. So now with the subscription charges. With the Garmin unit, we'll start with first, they have a couple of options. They have something they call their annual plan, which means you're signing up for a yearly contract. That does make the monthly charges cheaper, but they also have a freedom plan where you can do a minimum of 30 days and then you can freeze it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then start it up again. But you do pay more for the monthly amounts. I'm only going to look on both units. They have sort of 3 packages within this. We're just going to look at the first 2 really as a comparison. So on the Garmin one, we have their safety package, which is $12.99 a month if you're doing the annual plan, or $14.99 a month if you're doing the freedom plan where you can stop and start it. For that, you do get 10 satellite messages included. Any messages on top of that, you would be billed 50p a message. Obviously there's unlimited SOS, hopefully you won't need to use the SOS. Nice feature with the Garmin is these preset messages that you have to set up in advance on your Garmin account and who they're going to go to, they don't come off any charges. They're just simple, quick messages. Now, one thing with the Garmin safety package at $12.99 a month or $14.99 on the Freedom plan, it doesn't include any tracking. So you could have your unit turned on, say, and set to track every hour, so some friends and family can see you every hour on a map, or say every half hour, but you are charged 10p per track point. Doesn't sound a lot, but I suppose if you had it set for 10-minute tracking, that would be 60p an hour charge. If you're out for 10 hours, it would be £6 onto your bill. So I will talk about the next package on the Garmin before we move on to the Zoleo one, which I think if you were wanting to use the Garmin for someone to live track you every 10 minutes, the next package is what they call their recreational package, which is $24.99 a month if you're doing the annual package. Bear in mind it does jump to $34.99 a month if you want the month-by-month Freedom package. A lot of our customers we tend to find go for the yearly package because they're using the device all the time for safety, and they use the $24.99. Now with that package you get 40 satellite messages, so you do get an increase from 10 on the messages, and you get 10-minute tracking though included now, so there's no extra charges. You could have it tracking every 10 minutes knowing you're not going to get an extra bill. So that's just a rough guide. I mean, there's lots of information on our website under the frequently asked questions where you can go and delve deeper into these packages. You do pay £29.99 activation with the Garmin for the annual package, or $34.99 if it's the month-by-month package. You only pay that once to activate, but that's the activation charges. So I'm just going to look at the Zoleo now and just give you a quick comparison. So on the Zoleo one, their minimum package, they call the basic one, is £18. Now I know that is a bit more than the $12.99 on the Garmin. You get 25 messages instead of 10 messages, but what you do get with that is what they call an add-on subscription. So for £4.50 you get then the tracking included, so that 12-minute tracking for up to 5 friends and family is included. So I look at that as really the £22.50 compared to the Garmin $24.99 if you wanted the tracking. So that makes it quite cost effective when you look at it that way, and you have got the 25 messages. SOS obviously unlimited. The check-in button, mind you, that does come off your subscription, so where you get those 25 messages you would be charged for the check-in. But to me, if I was using the extra add-on for £4.50 for the tracking, you potentially don't need to use the check-in button because your friends and family are going to be tracking you every 12 minutes, so just bear that in mind. The next package up that they do on the Zoleo, so their mid-price package, is £32 a month. Now if you compare that to the Garmin annual one at $24.99, it sounds a bit higher, but if you want the Garmin package where you can turn off and start again, that was $34.99 for the mid-priced one, whereas the Zoleo one, as long as you keep any of the packages for 3 months, you can then suspend them. Now the only thing with the Zoleo, when you do suspend them, you do have a minimum charge of £3.50 a month, but that's obviously a lot less than what you were paying normally if you just want to suspend it because you're not going to use the device for a few months. Now for that £32 you do actually get 250 messages, but again for the tracking you would really want to add on the £4.50, making it £36.50, and then you get the unlimited tracking. So that's the two I would tend to look at when we're comparing. The activation charge on the Zoleo is £23 activation, but you've got to have it going for at least 3 months, and then you can suspend it, but you do pay £3.50 each month when you suspend it. So in conclusion, the way we've looked at it, and things might change if we start using the devices more and more, but our conclusion would be along the lines of the Garmin device, you're going to pay £40 more, but you've got some extra features that you may want with regards to it being a bit more standalone, with not necessarily needing the phone to send messages, even though that is a bit easier. If you're using the Garmin where you're going off the beaten track for a lot longer, so you're going to have that potential trip where you're away for a few weeks, you know, we mentioned about the battery life being up to 28 days with 10-minute tracking, or 46 days, that may be the one for you. You're paying a little bit more for the device, but if you're just, you know, using it for the tracking, $24.99 a month, but you're getting that better battery. So I think it's all about being a bit more standalone, but not necessarily needing your phone, and having that longer battery. But then if you look at the Zoleo, you could save £40, so you're getting a cheaper device. For someone who's still going off the beaten track for, you could be going away for 3 or 4 days, and we did say up to about 8 days if you've got the 12-minute tracking. So as long as you've got somewhere that you're going to be able to plug in and charge, or, you can use a power bank to extend it, but you're just getting that lesser battery life, but you are paying a bit less for the unit. And then if you did want to do the tracking, I suppose trying to compare as much as we can like for like, I'd be paying the £18 potentially with the £4.50, which is £22.50 compared to the £25 on the Garmin. So you're saving, £2.50 a month, which all adds up. The one thing we have found with the Zoleo, it probably is easier to pass around to family members, whereas the Garmin, really, if another family member wants to use it, they're going to be logging in on your account if they want to change settings and the messages, etc. Whereas the Zoleo, you simply unpair it from your phone, because it can only be paired with one phone at a time, give it to your family member who's going to borrow it. As soon as they pair it with their phone, they're up and running dead quick, and they don't see your historic messages, so they're not seeing, for privacy, they're not seeing your messages. Bear in mind, it's still the same number, so anyone who still texts it, messages it, those messages will now come from to that new family member rather than yourself, because you've passed it on to them. And then when you want it back, they simply unpair it from their phone and you pair it back with your phone. So the Zoleo does have that advantage. So to be honest, we like both units. We like the features of both. You may have your own reasons why you go for one over the other. We've already tested the Zoleo and been very happy with it. We're going to start doing some testing now that we've got the Garmin in stock with our own demo unit, and we'll report back with further videos on how we're getting on. But I hope these videos, even though they haven't been necessarily in-depth on every technicality of the unit, it's just giving you a good idea of some of the differences, what they look like together, size and weight, battery life, and the subscription charges. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.